Hello, 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 hello. Hey everybody, it's Mike Meyers. As usual, I never believe when this thing's on.
Hello, hello, hello.
Here it comes. Here it comes. Here it comes.
Hey everybody, it's Mike Meyers.
There we go. We got rid of the little bit of lag there. Hello, everybody. This is Mike Meyers. This is the Mike Meyers Ask Mike Anything. The goal of this live stream is to provide those of us who are isolated by the coronavirus an opportunity to continue our studies for CompTIA certifications. We concentrate on IT fundamentals, A+, Net+, and Security+, but we can certainly expand outside to other CompTIA and as well as non-CompTIA certifications. Well, guys, as always, Scott Jernigan's here with me. Say hello to the nice people, Scott.
Hey, nice people. How are you?
And we have a mystery face to at least some of the folks. Folks, everybody's warning you, we got Dr. James Stanger from CompTIA come in.
Hey guys,
James, how you doing today, sir?
Doing good, man. It's good to be here, Mike. How are you?
Good. What is the temperature in Olympia, Washington right now?
Temperature in Olympia, Washington right now. This is where I look up to my little fancy remote thing. According to it's 45.1 degrees out there, Fahrenheit.
Yeah, I was hoping you'd say Fahrenheit. It'd be a little toasty at centigrade, huh?
Be a little toasty, just a little.
my hair's burning off, which is what happened to me. There we go.
Lawns spontaneously catching on fire, all sorts of things. Yeah.
So anyway, here in Houston, it's a balmy 70 degrees, or
Nice.
that would be what I can do this 28 degrees Celsius.
Ooh.
Trying to make myself do better with Celsius. It's so funny. So many Americans push against the metric system. I'm like, have you ever done? I mean, okay, so for time, that doesn't change anything, but distances and stuff like that, it's great, right? But anybody who's ever had to calculate force or work or energy, the moment you put down your imperial units and move to this wonderful thing called a Newton, suddenly everything makes lots and lots of sense. And I'm very much a metric system kind of boy, especially when I'm trying to calculate my kilogram. Oh my goodness, I can do this. Kilogram meters per second squared. There we go.
Oh, it's very impressive. I'm a big fan of metric. I have to say, except for the temperature things, that I like the Fahrenheit range more than I like the Celsius range. If you're not the numbers themselves, but the actual range. Somehow Fahrenheit makes sense. But I'm a big metric fan too, especially I work on cars, and it drives me nuts to figure out 7/30 seconds versus whatever when it's just metric is lovely.
Yeah.
Is
11
10,
millimeters,
11,
right?
12, 13. I mean, it's the only way to go.
No, I have the same problem. I own a Mercedes and a Ford, and so I have two complete sets of wrenches for like everything.
Yep, I'm doubling up everything. I've got an old 64 and a half, what's it called? Mustang and an old Toyota Land Cruiser. And so, yeah, it's like I have to double up on every, the metric.
Wait. You have a 64 and a half Mustang?
I do.
Is that the one with the split window?
Yeah. Got the split window. Yeah, pretty cool.
Yeah, I gotta tell you, it makes sense. See, Scott, you should be working for CompTIA, man.
Right?
No.
You'd be going Stanger style.
That's right.
In a Mustang, baby.
I'm telling you,
here's me just slumming away in a Mercedes-Benz 280 SLK with 101,000 miles on it. But wait, James, I shouldn't say anything. So, Scott, what do you drive?
Nissan Leaf, fully electric.
All right, good for you.
You're so green.
Somebody's got to be, Mike.
Yeah. That's okay. Do remember that we're going to have the plastic burning party this afternoon.
Oh my.
Oh, James, I do this to tease poor Scott. Scott is our eco super friendly guy.
I just a second. I'll be back in a second. I have to hide all my single-use plastics.
There you go. Good man. All right. So anyway, Scott. So guys, just so you know, Dr. Stanger is. James, your title again with CompTIA?
What am I? I am Chief Technology Evangelist. How about that for a title?
I like that. Scott, can I get an amen for that title?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, absolutely. So, guys, Dr. Stanger is going to be talking about. It's going to be networking today, but I want to leave things in a little bit of suspense. This is a good technical group of people. I can see. Lots of some of the regulars coming in. There, see Mohammed. Mohammed, where are you from, dude? You never tell us where you're from. Edwin Allen Dugan, And Dr. John Holmes, I got to meet this person.
Just to clarify, I got the Mustang from a member of the family. So yeah, I do not have tons of cash. Let's put it that way. So,
oh, dude,
any cash. Yeah.
So the funny thing is, like, do you know what a Ford Pantera is? They were made like in the early 70s.
Heavy metal guys drive those. Is that right?
It was a little sports car kind of looking thing.
Okay.
It was actually a Di Tommaso mid-engine. I think the last year they made them was 1974. Anyway, they were always the cheap poor man sports car. And up until like the mid 90s, you could get one for like 15 grand. I mean, cherry.
Yeah.
And I'm always like, well, one of these days I'm going to get me a Pantera. And now put a 0 on the end of that because used cars have gone like through the roof.
Insane, isn't it? Yeah.
It is insane. Why didn't I get in on that when I could have?
Yeah.
That one. And I can't tell you how many people I said, Bitcoin's at $3,000. Sell. It's going to drop to 0.
I remember that. Yeah. I remember saying this. Oh, well, it's got to top out at some point. Get rid of it while it's good. Yeah. Mr. Stock advice.
It's pure bubble, man. Because it is.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Of course it is. So when is the used car thing going to calm down? I mean, does anybody know? Does anybody have any idea?
I pretty sure when the aliens land,
okay.
And then we'll be into used spaceships.
So just that one that only has the warp drive, option, or warp 1.0 rather.
Yeah,
than
warp
2.0.
1.2.
Forget it. Yeah.
I used to make the Omega run 2.3 parsecs. So.
But because that's the warp engine that mistakes units of measurement for time, right?
That's right. Exactly. Exactly.
I love how Star Wars has taken the last 30 years to try to write their way out of that foible.
They're going to do it eventually.
Yeah, they've tried. They keep trying. Yeah, well.
So I'm just looking through to see who's on right now.
Sure.
And Andrew Hutz, his cars. Everybody's telling us about their cars now, James.
Ah, cool.
We do not see any questions yet. That's okay. All right. No
questions. Right. No questions. What kind of cars are you seeing, Mike?
Where'd it go? Opel Zafira.
Opel. Well,
that's Andre. He's from Belgium. He doesn't know.
I was going to say somebody's calling in from Europe, probably, because I think Opels were sold for about a 10-minute period here in the States. Is that right? Maybe 15 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I almost bought one myself. What else do we have car-wise here? We got, where'd it go? Mohammed, you're Lebanese? Oh, well, welcome aboard, man.
Cool.
So
there's
I'm just scrolling.
204.
Oh, yes.
Darius Bryant at 204. So I'll start with a question of my own. What are some ways people can gain experience and hands-on to put this on a resume for an entry-level position?
That's a great question. I've talked to a lot of people about that because I've found that learning institutions of various ilk, but by learning institutions, I'm talking about CompTIA, talking about Mike, Total Seminars, talking about whether it be just name any learning institution, a learning center, a university. I think we all do a great job at showing people the skills and getting people the skills, whether it be, for example, lab-based. I'm a big hands-on person. You really need to, if you're going to learn about the cloud, go find a good free account with AWS or Google Cloud or wherever and get going. But here's the deal. When it comes to actually proving the experience, I think one of the first things you can do, unless you're in really dire straits or what have you, look for volunteer opportunities. That's one of the first things. Now, think about this. Experience these days in technology is experience in technology. I think a lot of times when we help our neighbor friend, when we help our family, right, we don't count that as experience because there wasn't a paycheck that showed up at the end of it. But experience is experience. And short of lying, you can represent your experience that, I have actually helped people, whether it be, this is kind of old school, build a PC, or whether it be I've migrated data from one phone to the other. Guys, that's experience. But getting into actual, like a third party, a credible third party who can say, yes, Scott and James have the experience. My short answer to that is find ways to volunteer. Traditionally, I've seen elementary schools, junior highs, high schools accept volunteers. More and more, you find that a bit more difficult, but go to clubs, granges, a church group even, and volunteer to do work for them. That's one of the main things that I see people getting serious experience on their resume. They could say they worked for a year doing IT support for X organization. It's not a lie. It's not even a fudge. It's not even a fib, right? It doesn't matter if you're paid for it. So that's one of the first answers.
But the only thing I would add to that is if you're looking for an entry-level job, most of the time, if an entry-level job is putting work experience in there, then they're doing that to scare people off.
Great point, Mike. Great point. Boy, have you seen, Mike, these? I mean, you and I both, I think, have studied job advertisements for years now. And I mean studied. Most of them are full of it. That's a nice way to put that. I mean, most of them, you've got to deconstruct them. Is that what you're saying, Mike? You got to get to the bottom of them.
Well, I tell people, so I make an analogy. So like when I was in high school, let's just call it what it is, guys. I'm not the prettiest guy who ever was invented. So, but in high school, I always dated all these really cute girls. And the reason I dated cute girls is because I would ask them to go out. And by gosh, they said yes an awful lot. Well, they said no a lot too. And it's literally the exact same analogy. What's happening here is you see a job posted and you're literally are self-limiting. You're like, this job is way too hot for me. I can never get this job. I'm not even going to try. And my attitude is if it says entry level, there really isn't any real job experience unless there's a unassociated job experience, and they're doing that to scare you off. So pick that pretty job posting and ask it out, and you'd be surprised how many times they say yes. And if they say no, who cares?
That's a great point, Mike. I can't help but think of an example of it was some baseball team years ago. I think it was the San Francisco Giants. They had a few members of the Grateful Dead come and sing the national anthem for them at the beginning. Nice. And one of the persons asked them and said, "How did you get them to do it?" And the guy went, "We asked them." It's just so. Keep going, Mike. Keep going.
The other thing is that entry-level jobs are there's a lot of them. You get on LinkedIn or Indeed or Gorilla or wherever you're looking these days. There's a lot of entry-level jobs on there. And there's even a lot of entry-level jobs that don't say entry-level. Find the job you're passionate about and go for it. Mm-hmm. All right. I've seen people where job listings that said, we need a bachelor's degree. And I've seen people with high school degrees get those jobs. Now, they came in with some confidence and they realized they weren't going to be the first choice. Yeah. But that is a big deal. In fact, one of the problems we're running into, I'm working with a lot of people around the country these days, James, who are trying to get people placed primarily in IT security jobs.
Right.
And one of the biggest issues they say is that very, very overqualified people tend to go for jobs that they shouldn't even be applying for. And that they have to take a lot of time filtering out overqualified people to get to the type of people they're looking for. And keep in mind, James, my world is entry level or 1 year experience, and then I stop.
You're right. I think you got a really good point in that there are a lot of people who it's almost like they go into this with a low self-esteem or something like that, and they don't.
I think that's we're all Asperger's, right? I mean, if you're in IT, I think you're Aspergery, and I am. I'm the first one to admit it, and I think that that is a trait of us is to low self-esteem and voting yourself out.
Can we really do this? But you also have that kind of thing where the advertisement, I call it a job advertisement, you call it what you want, right? The job request, whatever you want to call it. And oftentimes they'll put some kind of semi-ridiculous things in there or ridiculous things. And I remember one time saw a job advertisement for a blockchain developer, must have, this is years and years ago, must have 5 years of blockchain experience. Well, back then there weren't 5 years to be had of blockchain experience. There's that too.
Because and invariably that especially that type of stuff is the separation between the entities who are looking to fill a spot and usually HR or something like that has their own rule sets that rarely come into play. But I tell everybody all the time, apply for the job that you have a passion for and let them sort you out.
If they see the passion, first of all, and they see an interest in working, and then they see some sort of evidence of achievement. When I say achievement, you can call it certification, whatever, that you've actually have something that the hiring person can go, okay, she can say, okay, I see that, Mike or James have this particular qualification. Then they'll see their way clear to waive that X number of years of college education or degree or whatever when they see somebody who has what they need.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Scott, do we have any questions up so far other than that one?
Tons of questions.
Here we go.
So guys, Dr. Stanger has a complete presentation about networking, but
I'd rather answer the questions, but it's up to you guys, man.
Sure.
Yeah.
So guys, do keep in mind, we started here at 2:00 Central Standard Time, and we run till roughly 3:00 or until the questions run out. Now, it doesn't happen very often, but it has happened. We've had a couple of sessions where it lasted like 30 minutes, and it's like, hello,
got it.
And then we just left.
That's not going to be the problem today, Mike.
Okay. All right.
Guaranteed.
Mike, when you did that, it reminded me of old Portland, Oregon, when there's a guy named Tom Peterson used to do that. Wake up, right? He'd be at 2 a.m. and he'd tell everybody to wake up, tapping on the screen. Thank you for the
memories,
the flashback.
Memory.
So at 2:05, Edwin asked a question. He said, I got my Pen Test Plus in October, thanks to Dr. Stanger. So he got the voucher from you. Now I'm on to CYSA Plus, and I feel like Pen Test Plus is a bit heavier. Is this right?
Heavier than what?
Heavier than what? I think heavier than CYSA Plus. Is that what I'm supposed to?
Right.
I'll restate it. The idea that Pen Test Plus was a more difficult exam than CYSA Plus. Is that? I just want to make sure I'm stating that correctly or understanding that correctly.
Yes.
Got it.
Okay.
Thanks. That's a good point. The first thing I'll say is that each time we do anytime we do a certification, what we'll do is we bring in literally thousands of subject matter experts, and we ask them, what are the important skills? What is the nature of the job role? In the case of Pen Test Plus, a pen tester, a VAPT person, vulnerability assessment pen tester, a red teamer, or even a threat hunter. So there's that. With CYSA Plus, we would ask people about specific job roles having to do with security analysts. So the red teamers, the pen testers, right? That's the red teamers, that's the red side. The analysts, security analysts, the monitors, people who monitor things, who visualize. Those are the CYSA people. So sorry, I just want to get the background so everybody's kind of on the same page here. Whether one is more difficult than the other, that's interesting you say that, or more in depth than the other. Because I'll say this, what we do is when we bring in a subject matter expert for Pen Test Plus, for example, we want to capture what is important, what are the skills for that particular job role. And we do the same thing with any of our certs, A+ for help desk, let's say, right? Tech support, right, Mike? Network Plus for networking professionals, Security Plus for people who are just, starting out that security career. I'll say this though, it sounds like Pen Test Plus may either have been more of an interest for you, so you got deeper into it, right? Or that you know more about security analytics. You actually may know more about security analytics than pen testing. That's why Pen Test Plus seem more difficult than security analysts. Because I've often heard people say the opposite. And I don't think it's the nature of the exam. I think it's the nature of the person taking the exam or studying for the exam. Could be that you have more security analytics knowledge even than you realize, and that's why Pen Test Plus possibly was a bit more challenging. The idea is that we're trying to capture, I would say we do a really good job of it, but trying to capture the nature of that job role, whatever that job role is. Is that there's one answer.
And a great one at that.
Yeah.
Here's one directly for you, James.
Sure.
Can you reveal the release date for the next A+?
The next
What release
A+.
date?
No, I can't do that. The best way to do that, folks, is when we announce it, go up and just Google it right now. Just Google right now for the CompTIA A+ webpage. As soon as you go to that page, right, that's the first place where we reveal to the world where the 220 the latest ones come about. So just go to those pages. There's the place where you're gonna know the date.
Yeah, so James, I'm actually on CompTIA right now. It says I'm at CompTIA.org/landing/A+ index, blah, blah, blah.
Mhm.
A+, when is the next one? It says Ask Dr. Stanger right here.
Thanks, marketing. Appreciate it. No.
Although that's clearly not you. The guy's a blonde, but you know.
So
they got the other James Stanger.
You know, they got both of y'all.
So here's on a more serious note. 209 Andrew asked, and sticking with our Pentest Plus theme, do you see Pentest Plus continuing to gain traction among prospective employers in the future? It seems like I'm seeing it talked about more now than in the past.
Yeah, we've definitely seen adoption for it, and there are a couple of reasons for that. One of the reasons is that fairly recently, over the last couple of years, and that sounds like, well, James, 2 years is not very recent, but trust me, it is in this kind of world. You saw the U.S. federal government for their 8570, now 8140 adoption happen. 8140 is, or 8570 right now. It's a long story. 8140 exists right now, but it's using the old 8570 manual. And it's basically a rule in the U.S. federal government that if you are if you have responsibility and you're an Army, Navy, Air Force worker or whatever over, let's say, pen testing, then you have to prove through some sort of accepted certification that you know what you're doing. And there are many pen test certs that are on that. The Pentest Plus was fairly recently added to that. And that's one reason. The second, but I think the more important reason than that is that just there are a lot of organizations that are having to do a lot more governance and compliance, specifically compliance. They have to prove that they are compliant to some sort of standard. In Europe, it'd be GDPR generally. In the US, you got things like PCI, payment card industry, the DSS standard. There are various standards out there that you have to show compliance to. One of the best ways to do that, and sometimes it's even mandated that you have to do a pen test. And so that is also another reason why you're seeing a lot more pen testing happening and things like that. And why you have organizations that instead of saying, well, we'll just grab some sort of pen tester, they're realizing they need to have that skill in-house. And so we're making it, they're realizing that Pentest Plus is kind of a perfect way to get people started on that.
Excellent.
Well, let me add, I got my 2 cents here.
Yeah.
The James works for CompTIA, so he has to be nice. I don't have to be nice. Number one, the true competition to Pentest Plus, in my opinion, is EC Council's CEH. All right.
Certified ethical hacker.
Yes, a certified ethical hacker. And I'm not really against EC Council, but EC Council made some mistakes, in my opinion. Number one, I think they've overcharged for the certified ethical hacker exam for the longest time. I know prices have dropped a little bit, but I think that's directly because Pentest Plus was cheaper than CEH. I found Pentest Plus to be harder than certified ethical hacker and more practical, in my opinion. CEH did a lot of definitional type stuff where that almost doesn't exist on Pentest Plus. And I think those are a couple big things. And the other thing is that CompTIA works very, very hard to make sure that there's lots of trainers, whereas EC Council literally makes it almost impossible for anybody else to train for it. And it gives it a walled garden kind of aspect that I think is off-putting to learners. So there you go, James. I'll give CompTIA a little pat on the back on that one because I think they did a good job.
It's also interesting. I'm always into the idea of whatever training program you have, it has to fit in with the needs of the industry. When I say that, I mean, it sounds really obvious. Yeah, well, thanks, James. You know, the sun is in the sky, but it's sometimes it's difficult. And I don't mean, I'm just talking about CompTIA itself in positioning something and coming up with, you can call it a product, you can call it a learning program, you can call it a certificate, whatever you want to call it, that actually does fit a particular need. And that is more difficult than you think in the industry. Some people say, well, that need, it has to be the most difficult exam in the world, and it needs to be 7 days long and all that stuff. But the question is, does that actually move the needle for organizations to say, look, I need to become compliant to this standard? Or even better, I need to make sure that I am monitoring and properly securing my attack surface as an organization. And that's why we position and aim Pen Test Plus where we aimed it. Not too easy, not too hard, just right. That factor takes a long time to figure out and do right. Guys, it may seem really obvious. Oh, come on, just teach the main tools and you're done. That if you take a tools-based focus to anything, you oftentimes will miss the mark. The tools will take care of themselves as long as you've aimed that particular certification, whether it be A+ or whatever, to where the real industry need is.
The only challenge I would make to that is maybe not so much at a comp, but as you get more advanced, where the tool sets become more defined.
Oh, yeah.
I think you can start to get away with that. But you're talking CISSP level stuff at that point, or
CISSP is less hands-on, I would say, but I
I agree. Oh, yeah.
More high-end stuff. But I always say, Mike, high-end stuff, things like that.
There are Wireshark questions on CISSP.
Yes, there are indeed. There are indeed. You mentioned Wireshark. I mean, that's one of the important tools, and I've seen that it's so foundational in some ways, right? You'll end up in your job, folks, in a Network Plus oriented job using some sort of packet capture, whether it be Wireshark, T-Shark, right, which is the command line version of that, or good old TCP dump. Those are definite things that you have to know. And I love to geek out and focus on the tools. That's always fun, because to me, that's where, if you compare and contrast things, whether it be the Windows version of, maybe not a great example, Windows version of Wireshark to the Linux one, or using different packet captures in different ways, it teaches you more about what's going on underneath the hood.
But you got to keep in mind, I mean, packet capture is kind of a unique tool, right? Because you cannot understand TCP/IP, or you can't understand that tool without a really good understanding of TCP/IP.
There's so many people, they jump right in and they're like, oh, cool, there are things flying past the window on Wireshark, and that's groovy. But I mean, do you even understand an Ethernet frame, first of all? Let's go even deeper back to the OSIRM, right, Mike? I mean, if you don't know,
well, we use Wireshark as a tool to teach OSI.
See, if you ask me, it's the only way to go, because it actually shows, the way in which things are encapsulated, right? The babushka doll or the matrushka doll. You know what I'm talking about? The Russian doll.
Yes.
Then, right. That to me is kind of how you need to see a packet. And it's funny because
we'll never look at a packet again the same.
Or a frame.
Or
a PDU.
Yeah.
Don't get me started. I'll get all Cisco on you guys.
Well, it's, and I love that, because I think that's where, if you understand those kind of foundations, then as things move to the cloud or move from traditional router switch-based networking to things like software-defined networking or SD-WAN or whatever, as long as you understand the packet-based nature of things, then you can roll with any change. You can go, okay, I see what they're doing now, because if you take a vendor specific kind of approach to it, then you'd be like, well, how do you really understand the idea in software defined networking, the idea of a plane? There's 3 planes, the control plane, the administrator, all that, right? But if you really know your foundations and know your OSIRM, I'm not saying it's easy, but it certainly is easier to, how should I say it, keep your feet as things change on you, as the ground shifts on you.
Sure. Absolutely. So guys, I'm a little worried. Scott, we need to be giving some stuff away here, brother.
Oh,
we do.
I've actually got, I'm queued up with a Security Plus question. Why don't we start and let's give away 90 days practice quest access.
I was getting scared. I was going to say you could have my stapler, but I don't have much to give away here.
Well, it's not a red stapler, James. Come on.
Oh, that's behind here. Yeah, I got it over here.
I can burn this place to the ground. Okay, so anyway, Scott, give everybody a walkthrough and let's give away our first thing.
Okay, so the rules of the game here are: Mike's going to put up a multiple choice question, and you need to not answer A, B, C, or D, but type enough of the answer that you think is correct so that we know that you think you know what you're talking about. How's that? Second, this is not fair.
It's not
whoever
fair.
has the right answer that shows up first in my feed is the winner. It'll always show up faster in your feed than it does mine. So we'll go. If you want to play, but don't want to win, just type your answer and type pass at the end. So just for word name at that point.
I like things being patently unfair. Somehow that just seems right.
Well, we don't intentionally make it unfair. It just seems to work that way. All right. So with Scott's rules in mind, guys, keep in mind, Scott Jernigan is the ultimate arbitrator and the judge. So with that, let's go ahead and queue up our first question. I remember how to do this. Sure, I do. Okay.
Screen share, Mike, screen share.
I think I got it.
You can do this. I have faith.
Use the force, Mike. There you go.
Did it come up?
Yeah, I see it.
Great. Here's the question, guys. To keep up with increasing numbers of visitors and transactions on your company's website, you have replaced your single web server with 4 web servers. Which of the following devices should you install to share bandwidth and processing for incoming requests to new web servers? This is very much a definitional type question. So let's see what you guys come up with. Is it A, a NAT-aware firewall, B, a load balancer, C, network analyzer, or D, additional routers and switches? I definitely know some management types who would have gone with D. Whoops, did I give that away? All right, so guys, this is where you type in. You need to be typing your answer into the chat window now. And don't panic, just because you see a bunch of other people have typed an answer, they could be wrong, so don't be afraid. Scott, I don't have the chat window up. Do we have lots of folks entering answers?
Tons of answers.
Okay, all right. I'm just going to leave this here for a moment more then, Scott, until you think we got enough.
I think we have enough.
All right, so I can almost guarantee you the trick is a single web server with 4 web servers. So we need to share bandwidth, which pretty much guarantees a load balancer. Unfortunately, Scott, can you believe I did this? I started this test question in final mode and not in practice mode. So we're going to have to go with me. Dr. Stanger, would you agree that's a load balancer?
I would argue it's load balancer.
All right, so we're going to go with that. I'm highly confident that is the correct answer. So let's see. Scott, pick us a winner, man.
So we had several winners who answered in the top 5 and all said pass, which is cool.
All right.
So Chaco Taco, Alucard, Andre, very good. The person who came in first, though, right after Chaco Taco, was Darius Bryant is our winner.
Okay,
Darius Bryant.
James, you got to do this. James, watch. We got to give him a round of applause. You ready? Scott, here we go.
Woo!
All right.
Do that. I catch on quickly.
Darius, what's his name?
Darius Bryant.
Darius Bryant. Darius Bryant, congratulations. You have won 90-day access to the Total Seminars CompTIA practice question of your choice. And keep in mind, we pretty much got them all. But in order to get your prize, Darius, you've got to jump through a couple of hoops. Step number 1, you have to send an email to Dave Rush. That's D-A-V-E-R, Daver, at totalsem.com. Darius, don't panic. We're going to put this in the chat window while I'm telling you this stuff. You need to send Dave Rush an email saying, hey, I'm the winner. In the email, in the body of the email, number 1, you have to put your YouTube name. So however your name shows up in YouTube, you got to put it here just the exact same way, because there's going to be 5 other people saying the third Darius. We want to make sure you get them, brother. The next thing you're going to have to do is you're going to have to put a return email. Now, when I say return email, yeah, you're emailing me something. Therefore, we can look at the email it's sent from and use that, right? Wrong. You have got to put the email you want in the body of the email, and then that way it's guaranteed absolutely to make sure we get it to the right thing. Scott, did I do it right?
Absolutely correct. Yes.
Cool. And remember, we're just a little mom and pop, so it takes Dave Rush. Well, you know, Dave is very old and is missing limbs from, balancing all the chainsaws. So you got to give him up to 2 weeks to get that knocked out. So again, congratulations to you, sir.
So at 212, hold on, I just lost it. Swish.
James, you know we're not going to get to your presentation today, right?
No problem, man. No
You're
problem.
totally going to have to come back and do it for us. Sorry about that.
It'll save people tons of frustrations.
We've been warning people that you're going to be coming for a few weeks now, and I think people have been loading up questions in preparation.
Really?
I'm going to shut up, Scott. Go ahead, man.
Okay, so this one is directed. This is from Swish Swoosh. And at Dr. Stanger, what are the purpose of beta questions in the CompTIA exams?
Great question. Great question. Now, beta questions, strictly defined, mean that they come on into the exam. They're not actually reflected on the score. So you still, you answer them at center and you don't know that they're beta questions and they don't reflect on the final score. The reason why we include those is because we want to make sure that we are replacing items that don't perform well or stop performing well. Generally, we have a very good process. We have a very good process where bad items really don't make it into a test. But what happens is that a test form, each time you go take a CompTIA exam, you will they are based on a form, and there might be a dozen forms in an exam or something. Each of those different forms has different questions in it. But statistically, we do a lot of work and we crunch a lot of statistics to make sure each of those forms effectively represents the exam fairly, that even though there might be different questions on each form, that each exam is fair and that they are actually similar. Beta items are introduced to make sure that as an item begins to perform in a strange way, it might be that through a lot of testing, through a lot, as people take a lot more training, a specific question that was fair at one point somehow becomes unfair or no longer representative of the profession. So that question has to drop out. Well, how do we come up with new ones? We put in beta questions inside of the exam, and then we look and see how that item performs. We look at statistics to see, is somebody who is a qualified individual, is that person able to answer that question well? Is it a tricky question rather than a truly representative question? So we put in those beta questions to make sure that they are fair. And then once we determine that they are fair and that they perform well statistically, then they become an item that is, how should I put it, scored. Now, even though you might waste time in your mind, you say, hey, well, I spent time on that item. That's not fair because if it's not scored, we take the time that it takes to answer. We consider that time that it takes to answer that beta item into consideration so that the form of the bank of questions that you get are in fact fair.
All right. So James, I want to dig deeper on this a little bit.
Sure.
So, and I guarantee you, I'm going to ask a question where you're going to say, I can't answer you, Mike.
Sure. It's fine, Mike. Yeah.
I feel that it seems to me, and this is just my own experience, that CompTIA puts all the beta questions right at the beginning of the multiple choice questions. And that the primary goal of those beta questions is to freak out all my students because they're like, I've never seen this before. And that's invariably when I get that email, your training material is garbage.
It's
and
terrible
Mike Myers,
because
I barely passed. Or it surprised me. I get more people cussing me out because they barely pass than I get people who fail. I'm like, D for diploma, dude. D for diploma. But do the beta questions in your? Can you confirm or deny that beta questions are pushed towards the beginning?
They're going to go in there randomly. They're always going to go in there randomly. They're not going to be in the first or at the end. In the same way as performance-based items, they're not going to be first or second or third. They're going to be put in randomly. Does it seem
you're
like
saying that performance-based questions are put in randomly?
Well, when I say randomly, I mean it's not like they'll be at the first part of the exam or the last part of the exam or what have you.
Dr. Stanger, I will tell you that in my experience, all the performance-based questions for every CompTIA exam I've ever taken have always been at the front.
Usually, no kidding. I've seen them come in at the end. That's interesting.
Weird.
Yeah, but you get the special questions.
That's they have to take my IQ into account. It's very good.
So if somebody gets a question on the A+ or any CompTIA exam and they just hate the question, just hate it, is there a place for them to complain to?
Yeah, there are ways in which you can. It's in the exam. Both you can mark it and say this item is an issue, and then you can also you'd have to do it from after the exam. You can do it from memory, and there's a URL at the website that allows you to put that to create that feedback as well. Inside and outside the exam.
I am unaware of this. Scott, were you aware of this?
No.
Okay, so. James, would you be willing, not right now, but after we're off, if you could send me some of those links, I'd greatly appreciate that.
You bet.
Hey guys, just so you know, I always complain to CompTIA all the time about questions for many, many years until this young kid showed up called Dr. James Stanger. When did you, was 10 years, have you been there 10 years?
You know, not quite 10 years. I think I've been there about, golly, is it 8 years now?
I can say, but coming on 10.
About 8 years. Yeah.
And there's the CompTIA practice questions before you got there and the ones after. I understand you're not directly involved with the practice questions. I'm not trying to imply that you are, but you definitely, questions got better just because of your presence, I guess. You know?
No, I'll have to deny that one.
It's that Paco Rabanne cologne you wear or something. I don't know.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. I love the exam, the process that we have to create our courseware and our exams, because it is based on talking to subject matter experts in the field. You know, it's not people who think it's a good idea. It's never what I would call an academic exercise. It's you know, what are working professionals doing? And so it's a pretty cool process. We start with job task analysis, which was where we ask thousands of people. Then we bring in people. It ends with, I shouldn't even say ends. It turns into that we bring people to help create the items themselves. It's really cool, the process that we have. And to be honest, it's industry leading. It's something that's put it this way, that there's the Association of Testing Professionals. I think that's what it's called, ATP. They will often over the years asked CompTIA to come in and ask questions, because people want to know what processes that we put in place. So it's really cool to see that. So yeah, I'll get those URLs to you.
Thank you. That would be interesting.
You bet.
So there are several questions along the same line, like from JM at 213 and the Xerxes at 215, which basically ask, I'm getting these certifications, A+, Net+, Security+, or I have a bachelor's in science in cybersecurity.
Good.
What jobs should I be getting and looking for? Can I get a network administrator position? There seems to be a lot of those out there, or do I need to focus in on security?
No, you know what? Here's the thing. A lot of people want to jump right into security because they see and hear so much about it. A couple of things about that, and I hope I don't get in trouble in saying this, but first of all, you are going to find that a network administrator job, Scott, that you mentioned, whatever permutation of network administrator you want to think about, right? Mm-hmm. Includes security more and more in it. What I think we're going to see in the future, and this is where I'm going to predict the future and get it completely wrong, but I really believe that the idea of cybersecurity as just a cybersecurity thing, that's a stovepipe, if you guys know what I'm trying to say. It's going to be integrated within networking eventually, within the cloud. It's a function. There obviously will be job security, standalone jobs forever. I get that. But more and more, you will find yourself using extensive security knowledge, whether it be in help desk, whether it be a network professional, whether it be a network administrator, network troubleshooter, even network engineer. So I would not think, well, it's only a technical support job. I don't see it that way at all. It's a great way to get started, whether it be technical support or network engineer. Your Security Plus exam could get you into a security, security one analyst job. Yes. But I find more and more workers will find themselves in some form of technical support job. I know a guy who's Security Plus, this is totally qualitative information. It's totally anecdotal, but who just got a job working for a large database company. I'll put it that way. So think of a large database company. Had Security Plus, he got a job doing the technical support stuff. And that basically is where when a hard disk goes out, or if there's some sort of security alert, he will either go in and bang in a new drive in the data center or whatever, the cloud data center for that company. Or once they see an alert, right, that looks like a security oriented one, he's the triage for that, and then he'll pop it up to a security analyst. That's someone who has A+, Network Plus, Security Plus. Did that answer the question at all, Scott?
Very, very much so. Yeah. There are also lots of questions, sort of like Fedora's from 213. What are the most important network concepts network newbies are weakest on, or what should I focus on? Essentially, I guess.
That's a great question. Mike and I we touched on it when we were talking about the OSIRM and understanding the encapsulation process.
Mhm.
I don't think people understand that understand why headers are added on to packets and then subtracted on once it's added on as something gets packetized, right, and then sent to another computer, and then the headers are stripped off. I think that's one of the first things that people don't understand. And then IPv4 and IPv6, understanding what I call the poetics of those things, understanding all the different protocols that are within them. I even have a section of a presentation I'll often give called Know Your Protocols. And I don't think people know their DNS well enough, but so I just kind of progressed from OSIRM to understanding packetization, to understanding IPv4 and IPv6, and then all the individual transport-oriented TCP and transport-less UDP kinds of protocols. And then make sure you understand your TLS. And by TLS, I mean transport layer security. We call it SSL, but it's really TLS. Understanding those handshakes, all those handshakes. DHCP has a handshake, TCP three-way handshake, of course. So those are important things to understand.
Okay. Here's another one directly for you, James.
Okay.
Is it impossible to get a perfect score on CompTIA exams?
It's not impossible. It's impossible for me to get them.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah. And here's the thing, folks, passing is passing. It's the funniest thing.
I'm sorry, Dr. James Stanger, would you say that again, please?
Passing is passing.
Would you say that might be a corollary to D for diploma?
Yes, in a huge way. I'm a firm believer in that. I don't know if this is a good example or not, but I remember years ago, I got my doctorate in unemployment. It's doctorate in English literature. Okay. I took an exam one time where you had to do a writing sample. And I found out that about 4 or 5 of my buddies, PhD buddies, also took that exam. Each of us barely passed the written section. Okay. These are PhDs in English. You're supposed to know how to write, and they barely passed the written section. All of us, not just, and again, that's anecdotal. That's only 4 people, 5, 6 people out of thousands. My point is experts and exams, right? The exam will pass you if you know your stuff, but I wouldn't worry too much about how well I can't imagine an employer going, I don't know, man. You only got 5 over that cut score.
We've had a couple of folks
you see that happen,
but not very often. We've had a few people mention that the employers were curious, but it's not that common.
Yeah, I think that's pretty. Yeah, that would be an outlier, as we call it. Sorry, I missed your data here lately. I think that's more of an outlier discussion than a main discussion. When it comes to the hiring process, and Mike, just stop me and we can talk about something else. When it comes to the hiring process, what the hiring manager wants to do is to find a way to trust you, right? So Mike, you're getting hired, right? I'm the hiring manager. I just want to know at some point, can we come to a meeting, a stasis, a meeting of the minds, as it were, that Mike Meyers can be trusted? And for that matter, can Mike Meyers trust the hiring manager? Okay. And so those things have to do with skill level, sure. It also has to do with interpersonal communication and a lot of, really important elements. I think when it comes to the proof, right? I think it's like, okay, I can see that person has studied. I can see that person has achieved something. And that achievement can be in a job role. Look at that. That person has a really good recommendation from somebody. Or it can be a recommendation as in the passing of an exam. All of those things will add up to trust on some level. And I'm not sure that all of us have a strong understanding of that hiring kind of process, because I've seen over the last 10 years a major influx of talented people coming in because you've got really good training organizations, Mike, yours, helping people upskill people, right? That's happened. What I'm not seeing, though, is people at the hiring point. I'm not sure that process, I think that process is more broken than it should be. At what point does Mike determine that he trusts James in terms of at the hiring point? I think that's one reason why there's such a, I won't say skills gap, but a hiring gap. Why there's so many jobs still going unavailable. Because I think the person who's hiring they kind of put their job, as it were, out on a limb. And I think it's hard for them to figure out, how do I safely extend that job to somebody? I think that's a factor that people don't quite take into consideration right now.
I would say that is a problem. And what I would add to that is to say it creates a situation where people delay hiring until they're in a panic. And then all of a sudden they're like, do you process oxygen? Do you possess bilateral symmetry? And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, you're into chlorophyll. Okay, we'll give you 90 days. But it's and that's where I think we are in the middle of that right now.
Right now.
It's freaking panic land out there of people, and when I see somebody online, and James, I got to tell you, hanging out with this live stream it's good for my soul, because we meet so many people getting jobs and, passing
cool
a cert, getting jobs, getting certs. But I will also say that it's pretty easy to get a job right now.
It's interesting you say that, because there's so many people that are staying away for various reasons, right? Some workers are staying away, because of COVID, let's say, and there are other reasons why. It can be an opportunity for somebody who's really wants to go get them. And I would recommend to you that this is a way, if those barriers have been lowered a bit, take advantage of that in a good way and get past all that falderall and get into this career. It's where you can really thrive, and you'll find yourself maybe starting down one pathway, and you might find, hey, there's another pathway I can go in. That, don't.
And the only thing I can say to that is I don't know anybody in the last 18 months who has failed to find a job who was really looking for one.
And and when you get told no, just keep at it. Keep at it. Don't try not to. I know it's really tough, because I've been there too. I've been discouraged. Don't get discouraged in that. Just keep trying. You'll be surprised how quickly that'll turn on for you.
Yeah, I tell my students, like, if you don't do 100 resumes, you're making a mistake, and 200 isn't uncommon. The biggest challenge I run into is that you start meeting people and they're like, oh, I can't do this. I'm like, okay, can you move? I go, no, I can't move. I need to stay in, East Podunk, Michigan. I'm like, that could be a problem right there. Fortune favors the bold.
One of the things is, Mike, you bring up is like, and you have to be very accurate about your skills. I won't use the word honest, but accurate about your skills. You say, because let's put it this way, it may be a hit against you that you say, look, I don't know X topic. I say, what, that's an area that I'm weak in, but talk around it and say, but there's some areas that I do understand. That way they'll say, hey, look at that. James is not trying to trick me into thinking he knows more than he knows. And two, look at that. He actually really does know some of this stuff here. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, and it does. It is a big issue. And, I tell people just to, the three sexiest words I can hear from a tech is, I don't know. And then follow that up with, but I know how to find out.
See, and that's what they want to look for. That's what we'll look for. And one of the things that will help is, again, is specific training. I think of a voucher, right, for some specific training to give away. Is that right, Mike?
Yes.
Is it training or is it a cert? What's it for?
What we just gave away?
No, I think there's a new one here coming up.
Oh, no, I popped it. That was me prompting Mike to prep for giving away a CompTIA voucher in a few minutes.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Yeah. James.
Sorry, James. Sorry, Mike. I'm too slick for my own good. Sorry.
No. Yeah, no. It's we're here shortly. We're about to give away a free CompTIA voucher.
Oh, groovy. All right.
So we worked this out with y'all over at CompTIA. Kevin Peterson.
So I do want to.
I forgot his name. Doug, you can't let.
It's not Randall Edwards, is it?
Huh?
Not Randall Edwards over.
No,
at CompTIA?
Kevin
McDonald.
Yes, Kevin McDonald.
Kevin McDonald. Yeah, good guy. Kevin's fantastic.
Kevin is a great guy. He is just absolutely wonderful. Sorry, Kevin. I know Kevin likes to sit in on these, especially if you're around. So
I was thinking of the person in product management, Randall or Teresa or whatever. But yeah, Kevin is.
Absolutely.
And gosh, you've known. Kevin's a fantastic guy. I could tell you Kevin's stories, but I don't think we have time. So.
Yeah, I knew Kevin when his first name was just Ken. All right, Scott, go ahead, man.
So there are so many questions that we're obviously not going to get to. A lot of them, like SL Haldi has a very detailed question on, he's got an interview tomorrow. Here's all the preparation that he did before. I think a lot of the stuff that the advice that you would give him, you've already covered in just the straight up
Get a good night's
conversation.
sleep. Yeah, get a good night's sleep. And the other thing I would say is be as conversational as possible. You don't want to float around the room or suck all the oxygen out of the room, but you want to feel comfortable in your skin. And there are ways, everybody has their own way of doing that. Sorry, Scott, go ahead.
No, that's great. What I wanted to mention, and there's also tons of questions out there about how do I set up labs? How do I do these various things? I wanted to mention the unofficial Total Seminars Discord channel. That's not run by Total Seminars, but it's a great place to come visit after the live stream, and we can address some of these more longer form questions a little easier. Anyway, Dave Rush has put, our moderator, quietly working in the background, has put up the Discord link at 2:54 in the chat. Click on that, join us, bring your camera and bring your microphone and come chat with us. And we can hit a lot of the questions that unfortunately we're definitely not going to cover. Right.
But the nice part is we always come back.
That's true too.
I'm a big fan of VirtualBox personally, but people
Me
with
too.
VMware or whatever. I love VirtualBox. And then you have to be careful with this, but get yourself a cloud account somewhere with Azure or AWS or whatever. Be careful because they will ask for a Visa card or something, a credit card, right, from you. If you're careful, you'll never use that. If you're not careful, you'll end up getting billed, and they kind of want to be paid. So I would get a cloud account and be careful with it. And in my case, VirtualBox. That's
okay.
Yeah. And the other thing with AWS, I like AWS for teaching yourself cloud, is that if you do spin up at like an S3 instance, which is what most people do as their first step into a cloud, you can make that free one. Amazon has learned the hard way that there's now 3 levels of, you do understand we're going to start charging you money now, which they didn't do before. So it's actually much better than it used to be.
They're better than they used to be. Absolutely.
Well, I can't say the same thing for IBM, for example, which has a wonderful free cloud tier, but you do kind of have to stay up on that one a little bit.
What's interesting about that, Mike, is the reason why cloud providers kind of want you to pay, because these cloud providers, even though they're selling you, whatever product from Azure or AWS or IBM or whatever, they have their partners they have to pay. In other words, their cloud in some ways is not even their cloud. You know what I mean? Because so in other words, if a bill is incurred, it's not only your bill to AWS, let's say, but they have to turn around and pay their partners.
All their managed service provider partners that come in. And yep, absolutely. I agree. Yep. Absolutely. Okay, Scott, I say we got time for a couple more questions. Let's see if we can sneak a couple more in.
Okay.
And then we'll do a giveaway for the CompTIA voucher. Yep.
I had them queued up and I lost them.
I'll tell you what, you go ahead and queue them up. Let's go ahead. Guys, we're going to go ahead and do our voucher giveaway right now. Okay, now, folks, we're going to have another Security Plus question that's going to be queued up. The first person to write down the correct answer wins. Do not type A, B, C, or D. Actually type up enough that it's visible. The first one who shows up in Scott's chat window is going to be the winner. Now, do keep in mind, this is even a little less unfair, because what we want to do is we want to give these vouchers out to more people. And, God bless you, David Mohan, but we have to, Dr. Stanger, we'll tell you all about David Mohan. I love this guy. He's a hoot, but he won so many times, he broke the bank at Monte Carlo. So we actually changed his last name into a verb, as to Mohan is to win so much that we have to kick you out. So anyway, but for the A+ voucher, not A+, for the CompTIA vouchers, and do keep in mind, this is an international voucher. It'll work anywhere that CompTIA provides testing. So it doesn't matter where you are. This is for any CompTIA exam. So that's completely up to you. So everybody can come and play. However, we do tend to weight it a little bit more towards the new folks. So that's not to say that older people who have won vouchers before can't win this time. But if you're new, we tend to give you a little more lovin's, as it were. All right. So with that attitude in mind, Scott, let's go ahead and bring up another. I just realized I'm doing SY0601. Oh, well.
It's always fun, isn't it? Oh,
Okay, here we go.
I can see it.
So, James, do you like the interface?
Yeah, it's good looking. I like it very clear. You know what I mean? I can read it very easily. I like that a lot.
Yeah. So we actually try to mimic a little bit of the CompTIA look and feel on our practice questions. Because for us, one of the biggest problems is, especially for A+, it's their first certification exam. So test anxiety is something we try to avoid. Okay, here we go, guys. You ready? You have investigated a security incident involving users installing a free game downloaded from the internet onto their desktop computers, only to find that the game is a virus. Uh-oh. What will you do to prevent the users from installing and running this game? Mobile device management, application deny list, DLP. What's DLP, Scott? Oh, it's a red herring question, red herring answer. And then playbook. So this is an interesting question because I would be tempted to say mobile device management, but notice the question says, guys, desktop computers. So I know it's not A. So whenever you're looking at a CompTIA question, when you see hoof prints, think horses, not zebras. Keep it simple. CompTIA is not here to trick you. So, James, which one do you think it is?
I'm kind of like the application deny list kind of.
I do too. I'm almost guarantee you that's going to be what it is. Check your answer. B is correct. Ta-da! All right, congratulations. The answer is application deny list. Scott Jernigan, do we have a winner? Scott's still queuing it up here.
You know, when it comes to application deny list, it's always interesting because it's that idea that, it's a list of applications that can be denied. Application deny list also sometimes is used as a way of, let's put it this way, everything's denied until something is allowed, right? So there's two ways to look at it, right?
Sure.
Kind of like a
but
firewall.
you could do all of that with mobile device management too, though, right?
You can. Absolutely. That's the case. And you'll see this in another tier as well. When I say tier, I probably shouldn't use the term tier, but another form of endpoint with IoT devices too. You'll see that. You can even see that in the terms of the cloud, applications in the cloud, right? To allow and deny applications running on a PC, applications running on a mobile phone or on an IoT device.
No, absolutely. Completely
So
agree.
we do have a winner. I was confirming that he or she hadn't already won because the name was familiar enough, and certainly had won a total tester already, but now he's going for the trifecta, and that is Con. With
Con!
So good job, Con.
Nice work, man. Congratulations.
Ricardo Montalban will be in my dreams forever. Okay.
That is one of the great moments of Star
Trek. It is a great one. Another line from that same movie. Can I cook or what?
Yeah.
The Genesis Project.
Genesis
I got a
Project.
bunch of people under 30 right now, James, typing in Google going, what are they talking
What the
about?
heck is that?
Either that or they're like, oh, dad humor.
Yeah.
Back to sleep. All right, so Con is the winner.
Yeah.
Con, congratulations. Con, in order to claim your prize, you have to jump through a number of hoops. Number one, Con, you're going to have to send an email to Dave Rush. That's Dave R at totalsim.com. Con, don't panic. We're going to put all this in the chat window for you to write down. In that email, you're going to, oh God, Scott, I don't even remember. I get in trouble. In the email, what exam do you want? What is your real name, or at least the name that shows up on, like when you're doing your CompTIA stuff?
Your email address.
Your email address. What country do you live in? If you're in the United States, what state are you in? And then what country do you intend to take the exam?
Right.
Because all those people in Liechtenstein are moving over to Belgium to take their exams and confusing us.
And Dave Rush is going to put all of that information directly in the live chat. He did it 3:05 or 3:03. I don't have my glasses on. So all those instructions are there, Con. Congratulations. That's awesome. So a couple of questions. These are more specific for James.
And James, is it okay if we run a few minutes past 3?
I'm with me.
We probably won't take you too long.
That's fine. If you can take this face, I can give it. So no problem.
Okay.
But then you had to say that.
So way back at 2:30 was a question from Tullowit. Have you considered adding questions about soft skills into the certifications?
Tell we do have some soft skill questions that come in, as long as they can be culturally fair, right? Let's put it this way. In some cultures, I remember as a professor, there were times when I would notice that there were some students who would look me right in the eye and other students who never would. And I was like, well, are they being standoffish? Well, it was my lack of cultural awareness. In some cultures, you don't look somebody in the eye because it might be seen as somehow combative or just not appropriate. So you have to make sure that the question, the soft skill questions are appropriate. And so when they're appropriate, we do in fact add certain elements of those to, say, Project Plus and things like that.
I think cultural sensitivity is important. I saw a question that said, what is your favorite hot sauce? And obviously someone from Louisiana is going to say Tabasco, whereas us good Texans are going to say Cholula. And, so yeah, I think that was a beta question.
I think that wasn't, and so is it Cholula or Tabasco then? That's a tough one because we live in Houston. We just do 50-50. There you go. See, I'm not sure both at the same time, but it just depends on the food. It's very context specific. Then there's the Sriracha people who kind of put it on everything, right? So yeah.
Oh, we call that butter here in Texas. Scott, do you have a big jar of Rooster sauce in your fridge?
Of course.
Yeah.
I use it for my avocados.
Right. Yeah.
Well, and then there's my second kid, who all of those things to him are not even hot sauce. I mean, this guy has asbestos in his mouth. It's stunning what the hot stuff he eats. He can down habaneros without even thinking about it. Anyway, it's crazy.
And for one last very specific CompTIA question, this one from Andrew. Is there going to be more adoption of CASP Plus? Is it intended to compete with the CISSP as an advanced cert, or is it in its own category?
It's definitely an advanced cert like CISSP, but whereas CISSP, it tends to be more managerial in its nature, right? CASP takes the idea that as people go advanced, they don't necessarily stop working at the keyboard or doing hands-on stuff. So CASP Plus focuses on the implementation of advanced networks, whether it be the creation of landing zones to implement the element.
Did we lose him?
I think we lost him.
Dang, because that was extremely interesting.
I know.
Because I've always been wondering what's the difference between CASP versus CYSA Plus. Let's stall for a minute and see if he can sneak back in by any lucky chance.
Okay.
Boy, you talk about a cliffhanger. Oh my gosh. It's like, I've been wanting to know the answer to that for whoever asked that question. Thank you very much. That is a great question to ask. Oh, I think I know what happened, Scott. CompTIA caught him giving something away.
I see.
If he mysteriously disappears from the list of officers for CompTIA.
I wanted to mention Mohammed El Abayad. I see your message, and I'll prompt Mike after the feed to check his email.
I'm back. Sorry, I don't know.
You are back. So
we were having so much fun without you. We were convinced that you were giving away too much information, and the CompTIA overlords pressed the smite button on their keyboard.
I was just going to say, James got smited. I'll try to keep it short. The opposite side of the coin, the other side of the coin is where I see CASP Plus to CISSP. Both are advanced. One's more hands-on. Ours. We need more people who can implement the things that are found in CASP Plus. For example, the elements of zero trust. That's a really big thing, and you find that in CASP Plus. What I found too is that it's higher up on the pyramid, meaning the tip of the pyramid are the more advanced things. The lower the pyramid would be the higher volume things, such as A+ or whatever. So fewer people are always going to end up taking things higher up, the more advanced cloud certs and things like that. But what's interesting is I would say over the last 3 years, I've seen more queries and more people adopting CASP Plus than ever before, because they're realizing they need that level of worker.
I got to be honest with you. I took the CASP Plus and got my rear end handed to me.
It's a screamer. It's a tough
exam. Yeah. And I do not have my CASP. certification. I took it twice, and then I was like, yipe. Yeah,
It's a screamer.
it's a tough exam. All right, well, listen, James, thank you so much for showing up. Everybody's a little mad at us right now because we're going to have to cut it a little short, but would you be willing to come back like right after the holidays? Would that be a possibility?
Man. Absolutely. I'd be
happy. All right, because I literally, I'm looking at 5 or 6 more questions, and we've got to roll. Guys, do keep in mind that we will be on the Discord channel. I need about 10 minutes after this ends. I've got to take care of a few things, and then you can jump on the Discord channel with us as well. Also, keep in mind, I'm going to type in my email address. Isn't it fun to watch people type? There we go. So that's me. I'm Michael M at TotalSem.com. Always free to send me there. Other than that, keep in mind, this Friday, folks, we got Dave Rush doing the Dave Rush AMA, the DRAMA, or the drama. Dave Rush specializes in using Raspberry Pis as a tool set to help you pass CompTIA certifications. Dave has done wonderful things with Raspberry Pis, and he can really show you how you can save a lot of money from a hardware standpoint using cheap $35 computers instead of $1,500 desktops or laptops or whatever you might use. I can't recommend Dave enough. Just absolutely wonderful little program. And he's on right here at the Total Seminars channel at 2 o'clock Central Standard Time. And he is our Friday guy. And by the way, he also gives away a CompTIA voucher. So for those of you who are looking for the easy voucher, that's a great way to do it. So I know we've been growing a lot here lately, but it's still pretty good odds for those who want to do it. So with that, we're going to go ahead and let you go. Dr. Stanger, thanks again, sir, for coming on board. Scott Jernigan.
Thanks, you guys, man.
Beautiful as always. I know you two have a lot more hair than me, but other than that, I like you guys. And guys, we will see you all soon. So talk to you later, and bye-bye.
Bye.